Sunita holds a master's degree in hospitality administration from Equal International Maxims in Paris. She's a voracious reader, an amateur bridge player, an active storyteller, an enthusiastic choir singer, and a mother to two young men and two cats. It's my honor to introduce you to the team and everyone over here, Sunita. The floor is all yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Shiva. Such a pleasure and such an honor to be here. Thank you so much for being here and showing this enthusiasm on a topic that is very, very close to my heart. When Sony and Shrija reached out to me and spoke about DCKAP's interest in speaking about a topic like this, it really, there was I was just so happy to hear what they had to say and how they want to take a conversation like this further in the organization. So let's get started as quickly as possible. I have a PowerPoint just to make it easier, but there we are. I hope you can see my slide deck, and if you can't, that's perfectly all right. Like I said, as long as you can hear me, we're fine. So what we're going to talk about today, and what I'm going to do is really introduce you to what the world talks about in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion. In fact, now it is diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And we'll speak about that in just a bit, right? So what is the meaning of diversity? Why is diversity why is it something that we even need to talk about? What does it mean? Let's get there, and then we'll go ahead from there. So largely when people talk about diversity in the corporate space, this is what they're talking about, right? They're talking about persons with disabilities, they're talking about intergenerational, they're talking about culture, people from different parts of the world, from different states, different languages, different food, that kind of diversity. Then there's diversity in terms of sexual orientation, right? The whole LGBTQ IA community that is there. There's diversity in that aspect as well in terms of sexual orientation. And last but not the least, of course, is gender. I've kept that for the last because it's one that's very, very, very close to my heart. When I gave up on corporate some years ago and decided that, wanted to think about what it is that I wanted to do, this was the area that I really, so I wanted to work with, which was in the area of gender. But I eventually over the years have started working on, I realized that it really has such a broad connotation. What does that mean, right? What does diversity mean? And let's get started with that very quickly. So it's about let's start with persons with disabilities, or PWDs as they're referred to in the workspace. So more than 15%, ladies and gentlemen, of the world's population belongs to this group. There are people with permanent disabilities, with temporary disabilities, right? And disabilities across different areas, right? It's just not physical disabilities, but there's also the people who are visually impaired, hearing impaired, mental illness, all the things that come with mental illness, right? And right from epilepsy to schizophrenia to all kinds of things. So all this is what is clubbed as persons with disabilities. And there are organizations today that do a lot with persons with disabilities. Why do they do it? It's not easy. Don't believe that people are doing it for charity, because if you're doing it for charity, that's not the reason why you should be hiring persons with disabilities. Okay, the reason why corporates actually work and look at this group of people is because they're abled in different ways. Yeah, actually, if you look at it, and I always say this, is all of us have some disability or the other, but really when you look at this group of people, there are more than 1 billion in the world. Why would you want to lose out on talent? And secondly, this is our society. This is who we have to take along with us, right? We cannot marginalize any group of people at all. And how do we take these and go along? And there are companies like IBM and Shell and Unilever, all of, so many companies, and all of us in corporate, we talk about being equal opportunity employers. And equal opportunity, really, if you have to really mean equal opportunity, it needs to be equal opportunity for everyone. There are companies like Capgemini, right, who have more than 200 employees in various spectrums of disability. So just not visually impaired, just not hearing impaired. They also hire people with cerebral palsy, with schizophrenia, epilepsy, and put them in groups where in areas where they shine best. So there's a great amount of opportunity, and God bless corporates. I really feel that corporates really make a big difference to the world. Governments should be doing it. They do try. And in fact, there are countries that actually mandate hiring people with disabilities. So countries like France, Spain, Argentina, Chile actually have a quota that if you have, France, for example, if you have more than 20 employees in an organization, you have to have 6% of that group being persons with disabilities. So they sort of mandate that. So governments can do it, but it is my belief, really, in all my work in corporate, believing that that corporates can make a huge difference in doing things like this. So there you are. And once again, like I mentioned, when we talk about persons with disabilities, it is not about doing charity. Yeah, it is about taking the people along with us, looking at their skills, and being equal opportunity employers, really to the T, to what it means truly that is there. So that's persons with disabilities. I just wanted to show this picture up to show how we're normalizing this conversation, right? That they're not a special group of people. This is a window display at JCPenney, which is a large retail chain in the United States, right? And this is their window display. Because when we see visuals and we see more of it, it normalizes the conversation for us. It doesn't make them somebody else. It makes them one of us. Right? So that's where corporates are going in terms of persons with disabilities, not just in terms of hiring, but in terms of addressing them as a group of people who are part and, who are part of our community, right? And making that, normalizing that conversation. Then comes intergenerational, and this one's very interesting, right? In times like these, it says 5 generations working side by side. But I think if you look in any organization, we definitely at least have 4 generations working side by side. There are boomers, there are people like me in their 50s and 60s, definitely. So in some organizations, the senior leadership may, even be in their 70s. Yeah. So from that to the Gen Zs that are there today, they are all working together. Now, why do we need this kind of diversity? I know a lot of people, especially the older generation, will roll their eyes when they see how the young ones, coming into the workforce and with their different ideas and the different styles of working. And I'm sure the young people who are coming in are rolling their eyes, looking at people with gray hair like me, actually setting policy and running organizations that is there. But we need this diversity. Why do we need it? Because each one of us brings a great amount of, brings our ideas, brings our thoughts. I bring mine with my years of experience. And that's important for any organization to be able to take value out of that. And similarly, with people who just enter the workforce, right? God bless the Gen Zs, because I think they come with so much of enthusiasm. They come with so much of social activism. They're not a group of people who will just take orders quietly. Yeah, like people of my generation, maybe a generation after me, who were always taught to, listen to our teachers, listen to our elders, and follow the rules, right? Here we have a generation that will ask the questions, that want to work for companies which have a purpose, that will not keep quiet if a company is doing something wrong, is doing something that goes against climate change. They're socially so aware of what is there. So we need that kind of diversity, because that's the kind of diversity that will help innovation, that will help our businesses do better. So there's intergenerational diversity that is there. Then, of course, there is sexual orientation. Now, I want to introduce you to this if you aren't already, and I'm going to spend some time talking about it. And I want to tell you that it is an uncomfortable conversation for many, many people. right? Because it's not a conversation that we normally have in terms of sexual orientation, right? We want to, even if we know somebody who is in the spectrum, we don't want to talk about it because we don't know, right? At least a lot of us, a lot of people in generations that are not the Gen Z generation have a lot of difficulty actually wrapping their heads around it, because we have been brought up and to not discuss these things, because we're not sure, we're not even very aware of what it means. Is it something that we can discuss? There's of course the whole question of religion that comes into it as well, because a lot of religions don't look kindly on a different sexual orientation that is there. So there's a lot of conflicting things that are there in our minds when we talk about sexual orientation, right? But ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you, in a corporate space in our lives, if you believe that you are working for an organization or a workplace where nobody is of a different sexual orientation, that everybody is a heterosexual, I'm sorry to burst the bubble, but that is not true. There will definitely be people of different sexual orientation. They are just not coming out. Yeah, they're just not out of the closet because we are not making it comfortable for them to come out and identify themselves as who they are. Yeah. Now, I often, when I do these talks at corporates, very often people ask me that, but in the workplace, why do I even need to know? Right? And that's, yeah, why do I need to know what somebody's sexual orientation is? They could be heterosexual, they could be lesbian, they could be gay, they could be, whoever they want to be. And I don't need to know that, right? I only want to get work done. But the fact remains is that if we do not acknowledge that there is a group of people like this, then we are going to make policies. The way we work is all going to be geared towards heterosexuals, right? And we are going to exclude this group of people. And this, like I said before, this group of people exist. And what we are doing by excluding them is not letting them bring their true selves to work, that they cannot come out and say that, yes, I am gay, and yes, I am lesbian, and not be stigmatized for that. So today we're talking a lot more about it. I think especially corporates who have got headquarters in the United States and in Europe are willing to speak about it. In India, for the longest time, we were not. And most corporates hid behind that, saying that it's not recognized in this country. The Supreme Court today has decriminalized gay sex, which is a great step forward really in this country. But we're still far away from openly talking about it, discussing it. And I'm just hoping that as corporates, we'll be able to have these conversations more easily and start having these conversations. They're not easy. I want to tell you that I'm not fully there and clued in on what every single one of those alphabets mean when you say LGBTQIA. But I make an effort to speak to young people. It is my young boys who actually help me understand more of it, because in my generation, and I don't know everything. Yeah? And I'm okay to say that, but I do want to know, because these people exist, right? How do I accept these people? How do I have conversations with them? And I'm saying it's becoming more and more prevalent. I'm 54 years old, and today I have a gay friend of my age who has finally come out of the closet. And I find that so refreshing, right? For all the misconceptions and misgivings we've had, just having somebody in close quarters who is a gay person has made me realize that I'm so happy that he's come out of the closet. I'm so glad that he has a partner who loves him so much. And life goes on. He's still a very dear friend, and he still remains exactly the same person that he was when, before he came out of the closet. So this is what we need to be able to do. We need to have these conversations. We need to be able to understand more about this. I want to tell you that in 2007, the CEO of BP, of British Petroleum, Lord Brown, came out as a gay person. And he lost his job in 2007, which is like 15 years ago, not very long ago. he lost his job for coming out and stating that he was gay. In 2014, Tim Cook, who is the Apple CEO, came out as being gay, right? He continues to be CEO. He continues to head the world's most valuable company in the world, right? And it's really, and the reason I tell you this is just to let us know that it doesn't make a difference, right? It just doesn't make a difference. Once again, people asked Tim Cook as to why did he come out, right? He could have carried on without coming out and without stating openly that he was gay. But it was what he says, that it was important for the community. It was important for all of us. And I think that's the lesson that we all get, right? That it's fine. He's gay. And that's okay, right? Business is still doing well. Apple is still making money hand over fist, right? Similarly with Beth Ford, God bless her, for coming out of the closet, came out as a gay CEO in 2018, and speaks very, very vociferously of this is the leader that she is. She wants to be seen as a very, very authentic leader. There she was. In India, Keshav Suri, who's the executive director of the Lalit Group, is a very, very vocal person in the Pride group that is there in India. So God bless them for being that. I want to sort of end with, not end, but I still want to speak about transgenders. Is this wonderful picture, right? If any of you all recognize this, this is Melania Trump. Right, so this is the spouses of the heads of state of NATO. This is the French president, Macron's wife. This is the Turkish president's wife, and these are the spouses of all the NATO leaders, which itself is a big statement, because as you can see, all the leaders are men and all the spouses are women, which all leaders being men. That will come to the gender bit in just there. But ladies and gentlemen, there is one gentleman here. And this gentleman is the partner of the Prime Minister of Luxembourg, and God bless him for coming and being a part of this picture, because it is an image that we all need to look at, we all need to recognize, and we all need to accept that it is perfectly all right, right? Luxembourg is still being run well as a country. The Prime Minister has a partner, and we should not, in our own heads, be thinking that a picture of the spouses of the leaders of the world will all be women, right? So there's a picture there about transgenders. I would just spend a little time about this because I feel very, very closely to this community. I want to tell you, when I was growing up, all I knew about transgenders were that they were either sex workers or they were beggars, right? You saw them you still see them a lot on the traffic signals, and then, you know, and also a lot in the sex work area that was there. And as a college student, when I would take the local in Bombay, you know, there would be transgender people in the ladies' compartment, and I know that it made me so uncomfortable, and it filled me with fear, and that was my orientation to transgenders. And then in 2018, I was invited to be on a panel of transgenders in Bombay, where they had, in Mumbai, you know how old I am when I say Bombay, where they had the transgenders from across the country come in because they were having a conference. And what shook me, what changed me that day, was the fact that so many of them came, and as soon as they came and entered the hotel, the first thing they did was to go and change their clothes to the gender that they identified themselves with. And what a sorry statement that was, that we can't let people be who they want to be. They have to be somebody else for them to be accepted in society. So it was a huge, huge statement. And I think that, you know, it really changed my thinking in terms of accepting these people. On the panel discussion that day, to hear them speak, I was the only heterosexual. There were all transgenders on that panel, and to hear them speak about their dreams and what it is that they wanted to do in life was, you know, there is no difference between anybody there. Yeah, this is humanity, and they all had dreams and aspirations. And here we were as a society marginalizing them, not letting them be the people they wanted to be. Yeah. I'll stop here because I can carry on this, but I do want to tell you that India as a country in 2014 recognized transgenders as the third gender. So we're one among the rare countries in the world, I want to tell you, and I'm so proud of that, is that in our government forms, you will find that there are, that in the, where you have to write gender, you will find male, female, and other. Okay, because the Supreme Court has said that we must recognize them, and by the Constitution, they must get all the rights that are there. So it's tremendous. Of course, we all know that just by changing a law doesn't mean it changes reality. They still struggle tremendously. There are many, many corporates who are going out there and making an effort to hire transgenders. There is a, you know, in my own city here in Pune, I want to tell you, there is a company called ThoughtWorks. ThoughtWorks actually went out in search of a transgender person, hired Nayana Udupi, who I've heard speak at so many NASCOM conferences, hugely inspiring. And today she is the face of what ThoughtWorks is doing for transgenders. So it is, and it's not easy. Can you imagine in your company, when you hire a transgender person and that transgender person enters the office, right? What it takes to get everybody to accept that person for who they are. So it's a huge, huge effort that companies need to make, and organizations are making it because we want to include these people. We don't want to marginalize anybody. That's what diversity is all about, right? Very, very quickly now, cultural, social, cognitive, you know, cultural, I think we're all used to. If there is anybody from any other part of the world, you know how it is to work with different teams across the globe. And I think in IT, we're all used to that. All the people who are living from India know that what it means to be cultural, right? Every state is so different. Our languages are so different. Our food is so different. So there's a great amount of diversity that is there. For the Americans, it's about, you know, the African Americans, Latinos, yeah, the white Caucasians. So, you know, how do you get this kind of, how do you make sure that you have this diversity? Once again, every time the diversity in an organization is so that it gives you new ideas, it gives you new perspectives, right? Just for your business, forget anything else, right? For that, what it means is to be able to open up our minds. And last but not the least is gender. And this one I want to tell you is, if we can spend many, many hours talking about this, but needless to say, it's very, very skewed at this moment. Yeah, for all those in India, I want to tell you that our participation of women in the workforce is declining year on year. Yeah. And you heard me correctly. I said it's declining year on year. Now, when we see students getting out of college and you see the 10th standard results and the 12th standard results, you'll find that there are so many girls, right? They're coming first in class. Engineering colleges now have a lot more girls that are there. But in India, we educate our daughters for the marriage market. We do not educate them for the job market. We have a terrible leaking pipeline, and not just in India. For those who are on this call from different countries, it remains the same the world over. Yeah, we're far away from reaching any kind of parity in the workplace when it comes to between men and women. Why do we need this? Once again, 50% of the world are women, right? There is this huge talent pool that we are missing out on. You know, there is World Economic Forum will throw numbers out on how GDP can improve, how India can improve their GDP, right? Just by getting more women in the workplace. And here we are, our women participation in the workplace is worse than Bangladesh, worse than Sri Lanka. Yeah, so there's a lot that needs to be done. And what can we do about it, right? As an organization, this is really an area that we need to focus on, that we need to be able to see how can we keep our women in the workforce? What is it that we're doing? Now, you know, we can all say that, yeah, society has to change. We're a patriarchal society, you know, it won't change. But as a company, as a corporate, when you're looking for talent, what can you do? How can we make sure that we keep our women in the workforce? And when I want to make this statement, I'm sure there are many women in the audience here, is that it's not just about keeping the women in the workforce, right? It's not just about staying in the workforce, ladies. It's about staying in the workforce and reaching leadership positions, because we need women in leadership positions so that policies can change, right? And it's not that the men are doing a bad job, but we're not addressing women. The reason why we don't have enough women in the workforce is also because they don't want to stay in the workforce. We don't make it comfortable for them to stay in the workforce, right? It needs women there. We need women in parliament, right? Because all the laws that are being passed on rape, on domestic abuse, all these things which are affecting women are being made by men, right? And this is not about an anti-man tirade, but the fact is that we must have women in leadership so that we can influence, right? We can influence things that matter to us. So it's not just about keeping women in the workforce. It's also about getting them to leadership positions. It's a long fight. It's a long drawn out fight, but I hope we can all make that and really make that effort, because it's not looking good right now. Yeah. Okay. Let's very quickly. So we talked about gender, right? So this is what we talk about in terms of diversity. Very quickly, what do we mean by equity? I didn't use the word equality. Yeah. We all talk about equality, which means that everybody we must be fair. And, you hear leaders talk about it. HR will talk about it, all policy. We must be fair. We can't be unfair to somebody else. But the problem is, and I think this visual, if there's one thing I want you to take away from this talk today, is this visual. Yeah, it's not about equality, because I'm not going to get anywhere if I am going to treat people equally. People come with different talents. People come with such a diverse background. It needs to be equity. Yeah, we need to help everybody do their best at the workplace. And if we need to do that, we need to talk about equity, not equality, right? So that's the equity bit of it. And then comes the inclusion, right? So what does inclusion mean? Right? They always talk about diversity is about inviting people to the dance and getting people to the dance, and inclusion is actually getting them on the dance floor, right? So inclusion starts with I, and the reason I say this is because I know it's easy, like I mentioned before, that we talk about, diversity is easy to do. Diversity is quantitative. It's a number, right? We can tell HR today, I want to up my women in the workforce by, we should make it 50-50. Yeah, it's a question of going out and getting that. We should include persons with disabilities. We can do that. But inclusion is about making them feel welcome. Yeah, it's the action. What are you going to do when you have this diverse workforce that is there? And I want to tell you that we all think that we're being, of course, I'm being inclusive, right? So I have this team meeting. I asked everybody to speak. People gave their ideas. I'm being very inclusive. I'm not putting my ideas in front. But what inclusion means is, have I gone round the table and have I heard every single voice? Have I intentionally included? That's what this line says. Because if you do not intentionally include, you will unintentionally exclude. Yeah, so it's not just about doing the right thing, but it's about thinking through it. We all have unconscious biases in our head. We all do, right? We all do. But how do I make sure that I intentionally include? When I am getting people for a project, do I take a step back and think, have I looked at every single person? Am I looking at somebody and saying, oh, she's just had a baby, she's going to be busy with her baby, so let me not even ask her, right? Have I asked every single person in a meeting to give their opinion, right? That is intentionally including, because if you don't do that, you unintentionally exclude. We all know how it feels like to be excluded, right? As in childhood, we know that, and especially if you're a younger sibling, you know this, right? When you're kept out of a cricket match, when you're kept out of the football match, you're not included in that because you're too young. You're a weakling. You don't play so well, right? All that, and you're kept out of it. And I'm sure each one of you can think of that and remember that hurt. Yeah. How terrible did it feel to be excluded out of that? How terrible did it feel to be excluded out of that party when you were in college, right? And it's exactly the same in the workforce, right? That so many times with our own actions, we actually exclude people. And the only way to stop doing that is to do an intentional inclusion, to think before we actually do something. Yeah. So that's the whole inclusion. And now we talk about belonging as well. Inclusion is an action, is what you do. The belonging that organizations now talk about is the emotion. Yeah. Do I feel like I belong here? Am I being included? Am I being accepted for whom I am? Yeah. So organizations talk a lot about belonging as well. I want to end with just, I always like to tell what can we do, right? Yeah, corporates can do something, HR can do something, leaders can do something, the world has to change, patriarchy has to disappear before anything becomes all right. All okay, but I always look at what can I do? How can I make that change? Yeah, because it's important that each one of us do it. Yeah, if you just look at gender pay parity, it's going to take more than 200 years for that to conclude, right? For that to become equal. I'm not waiting 200 years. Yeah, what can I do? And I want to share this with you. So there are three things, and I try to keep it as simple as possible. Three acronyms, ABC. One is be actively inclusive. Yeah. Look at what you are doing. Be intentional about it. When you are hiring, right? Are you only looking at just your own biases? Yeah. What are the unconscious biases that are coming into play? Right? Am I only listening to the men in my team? Yeah. Or am I hiring only women and not hiring enough of men? Right? What is it? How can I be actively inclusive? Please take a look at every action that you do. Next is be an ally, right? If you don't know something, right? And just as I talked to you about sexual orientation, when you don't know something, go ahead and find those groups. Yeah. Go and spend some time with them, because when you spend some time with them, a lot of our misconceptions go. So be that ally. And last but not least is change the story. Ladies and gentlemen, too many years have gone by with, it's happened like this. This patriarchy has happened. This rejection of sexual orientation, of transgenders. We need to change the narrative. You and I need to change that narrative. Yeah, we need to be able to look at it and be able to change it. Diversity is the greatest opportunity. It is not the biggest threat. And if we want to do well, we need to remember that. We need to look at it as this great opportunity that is there. Okay, I'm going to stop here for now. I hope we have, yes, we have some time to be able to open it out to questions and answers. Please do share your thoughts. I think what I say is not the end all and the be all of this. These are conversations that we need to have. And I'm telling you that I learn every day when I have these conversations with people, with organizations. It is for us to be able to collectively do it and move forward. So open it up. I'm opening this out to discussion. Please unmute yourselves, or however this needs to be done, and do share your thoughts on this.
So here's one question. So how do we approach the diverse, ask and understand if they would want to flaunt their authentic self without making them feel judged?
Good question. And I'm saying that is our responsibility as an organization, to be able to talk about, to do the unconscious bias trainings, to do the trainings on sensitization, so that people can come out, they feel comfortable to come out, and they don't get judged. It's a lot of hard work, I want to tell you. It's not easy. And many corporates don't do it simply because it's just so difficult. It's such a big mountain to climb, but it can be done and has been done by so many organizations. So if we want to be diverse, if we want to welcome different sexual orientation, we want to welcome transgenders, we want to welcome women, we want to welcome persons with disabilities, there needs to be sensitization all over. Yeah, we need to be authentic in our intent to do it. And then it works beautifully. We've seen that, and we've seen organizations who flourished doing these kind of things.
So we talked about diversity and inclusion. Now this question is to understand the other side. Have you ever had somebody from the so-called section of people who represent the normative come up to you and tell you what about what they find to be the challenging aspects of working in a diverse environment with a diverse group?
I'm trying to see if I understand this question correctly as to what does it mean? Have people come up to me and ask me, what does it mean to work with a diverse group? I think diversity exists no matter what, right? We are all working in organizations where, men, women, different ideas that are there, all that. So there is diversity, and that comes with the usual challenges that are there, right? Where I don't agree with you, you don't agree with me. And it's becoming more difficult, of course, in a society like ours, which is now becoming very polarized, that we almost cannot state what we want to state, because then immediately you have to either like something or not like something. Whether it's religion, whether it's politics, it becomes extremely difficult to be able to take those stands. But that's the kind of culture we need to build in an organization, where I can not agree with you, but still respect you for the thoughts that you have put on the table. Yeah. How can we do that? That's the culture that we want. We want a culture of respect. We don't want an authoritarian culture, right? Where one person has to say, and their word is what is right. We want people to come up with ideas. How do you get people to come up with ideas? How does innovation happen? Innovation is not going to happen if we don't encourage that kind of diversity. So yes, it does happen. And sometimes you come across such roadblocks, which is so sad. I remember in my previous organization, I lost a star member of my team. And when he left, and I was, I kept asking him, I was so shocked that he wanted to leave. And the first thing that he told me was, because everybody was in the team, he was from the north of India. He said, the team members all talk in Marathi, and I just don't feel I feel just excluded out of the conversation. It was that simple. And I felt horrible. And I feel as a leader, I didn't pick that up. So it is something so simple in terms of the language that we speak in. How inclusive are we making everybody? Are we only speaking in our native language, or are we cognizant of what is happening around us? So, yeah.
And so what is the best means to overcome resistance to such change?
Personally, if you want to do it, I'll tell you. Like I mentioned in my talk, when you want to when you're not aware of something, spend some time with that. Yeah. Spend some time with things that you're uncomfortable with. Yeah. If sexual orientation is one of them, go and spend time. Go and look, and I'm sure you'll find, it's not difficult, right? Spend time to understand, what does it mean for a gay person? What does it mean for a transgender person, right? What does it mean for a person with disabilities? What does it mean for a senior person, a junior person? Spend some time with them. And I think that is the best way to do it personally. Yeah, because and I'm telling you this from personal experience, like I spoke about the transgender experience that I had, that I think it just makes such a big difference that is there. From an organizational perspective, I think sensitization is very, very important. Yeah, you can do many sensitization programs, but what is also very, very important is that it needs to be authentic. It needs to be driven top down. We all look at our leaders for cues, and if your leaders are not doing that, then there is a problem. Yeah, but as leadership, if you want to take this to heart, then you need to be able to set the tone in an organization of how it needs to be done.
Okay, so I have a personal question from the presentation. So I think you talked about equality and hiring more men compared to women, right? So how do you see hiring women has worked throughout the last 5 years? I mean, because, especially after this pandemic, right? So I feel like there is more opportunity for women. I mean, especially you stated that I think after, so post-marriage, people are trying to, quit their job, especially for women. At least like 50-60% of them are actually trying to move away from their passionate life that they wanted to pursue prior to marriage, right? So how do you see that within the last 2-3 years? I mean, are they getting the right opportunity? Because I mean, when I interview women candidates, so I heard weird questions about their previous employers or the interviews and everything, right? Because the question, I mean, the typical question when we talk to men candidates are as simple as that. But then for women candidates, I think some companies are not handling it the right way. So how women are actually going through the current situation? Are they on right track? Is the percentage increased?
So let me start with the COVID situation. One is, as the percentage increased, it is not, Shiva. It has not at all. In fact, it is like I mentioned, we're having even more trouble. And I'm afraid that I'll tell you that with my own prejudice and my privileged thinking, I believed that actually this work from home is a good thing for women, right? It gives you the flexibility, you're at home, there's still the children, there's all these kind of things that you can do. But I want to tell you that the data has proven me wrong with my own mindset that is there, right? It's because the women are completely tired out working from home, because they've had to do work and they've had to take care of their children, and they've had to do housework, because that has not gone away. We still live in a society where a majority of the housework is done by women. So it's become a huge problem. A lot of women are looking forward to going back to office, because it gives them that break, that is, they're not at home all the time, and their time is not being demanded on by everything else. So that was a revelation to me, Shiva. But I'll tell you what companies are doing to get over this bias about men and women that are there. So one of it is that, and many large companies do that, I know Google definitely does it, is that they actually hide the names of the candidates that are there when they send the resumes out for interviews, for just so that, because there is a bias. Harvard has done a study. It's called the Howard and the Heidi study. They created two resumes exactly the same. One had a male name called Howard, the other had a female called Heidi. And you can imagine what happened, right? Who got the job? It was in many organizations. They ran it through many organizations, and it was Howard who got the job and not Heidi. But it's our unconscious bias. It's our own unconscious biases that are there. So companies are actually doing a lot to overcome this. So they actually are doing these kind of things, hiding names, hiding the names of colleges. Yeah, so that there is no bias towards, it's not that I want to hire only from the IITs. I want to look at your talent. I want to look at your skill. So a lot of things that are being done for hiring in that respect. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been a complete privilege to be able to do this. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your time, Sunita. Thank you, everyone.